Sorry if you can hear them like filling the freaking parking lot outside right now. This is just one of those days. But I watched Kamala Harris' first interview with CNN yesterday. So I hate that they split it into three parts. That was really annoying. And I was reading along with the transcript at the same time, seeing if there were any like weird things that happened. And I think yeah, there was some amount of editing where they had like transition stuff happen. Um, but let's see. What are my thoughts on this speech? I said, I was talking to a friend the other day about this election, and I was saying that it's probably Kamala's election to lose over like Trump's to win. Because I think everything that we know about Trump is already like baked into the pie. Like people aren't really shifting their opinions on him no matter what happens, which is, no matter how much he gets indicted for stuff, how much he actually gets charged with things or is found guilty of things, or the immunity case or January 6th stealing the election, those sorts of things. Like, whoever cares about that has already baked that into their opinion of him. So it's like, I don't think he's actually going to move the needle at all. One of the things that's interesting right now is that he's actually becoming like significantly more pro-choice explicitly, where I think there's an amendment in Florida right now that gives the right to abortion if the fetus is viable, which is considered 20 to 22 weeks, as well as in cases of the life of the mother thereafter, like risks to the health of the mother. And he said he was voting yes for that. He also said something about making IVF free. So he's clearly changed his tune on abortion and he's thrown the pro life movement under the bus. But even with doing that, I don't know how many more voters he actually gets from being a pro choice president. Like, because, people, if you're choosing based on pro choiceness and that's like your one issue vote, then you probably vote a Democrat over a Republican on that issue. So it'd have to be something else. So abortion would have to not be your main issue in order for that to be the case. It would have to be something like, oh, I don't think the Republicans are going to regulate as much. And now that they're not pro life, then I feel more comfortable with voting for them because maybe I have female friends or some other thing where I like care about reproductive freedom enough that maybe I wouldn't have voted um, because of the risks of banning abortion, but now I feel more comfortable. Maybe like there's probably someone in that camp. But anyway, so let's talk about this interview. I think Dana Dana Bash, what's her name? Yeah, Dana Bash asks all the relevant questions for the most part. She just asked a lot of the questions that are immediately the thoughts that people have of, oh, Kamala Harris had these thoughts when she was running in the primary in 2019 and then she flipped on it. Like there was a question about asking about fracking, what changed your opinion on that, because she said she was going to ban fracking if she became president back in the 2020 primary, or yeah, the primary, and she flip flopped on that to be like, oh, for we can, and her answer was something along the lines of, we can still get all this green energy, Green New Deal stuff done without banning fracking, and it was like, okay, but you didn't really answer the question of like, okay, but what actually made you change your opinion on it? What's the data that made you change your opinion on it? So I think Dana Bash did a good job of asking the questions that are like top of mind, I would say. So that flip flop question, the opinions on the border or shifting on the border, and what else was an important question that she asked? It was a really short interview, and the thing is that Kamala didn't fumble it. She was able to answer every question. There wasn't too many like actual like just not prepared at all. She came prepared enough for all the questions, but considering how like soft Dana Bash was about everything, if she had to do any interview that's like tougher than this one, and this I don't think it was a particularly tough interview. They asked all the questions that like you'd expect to be asked at this point in her presidency. Um, also talking about like, oh, so you're just continuing Bidenomics, and kind of like, again, skirting around that answer, which is the case that yes, she is continuing Bidenomics, but she didn't want to phrase it that way, so she just gave like the positive vision of like the things that the Biden administration had done that are positive, and also we can do more, and I'm going to be the president that's able to do more. So I think that she was able to get through that pretty well, but I think the thing is that in an interview setting like this, even if her answers are sound and kind of work well for what she's doing and all that sort of thing, I don't think that Kamala comes off particularly well in an interview setting versus these like canned speeches. Like in the canned speeches, she does very well and very good performances, all that sort of thing. Everything they've been doing with like the social media of like, oh, she's at this cake shop and is excited about buying the cake, or like oh look, she's cooking food, and those lifestyle vlog sort of thing. That's brilliant marketing and all that. But once you get her in like a real setting where like real people are having real conversations about things, she doesn't necessarily come off well. She doesn't come off badly, terribly. It's not like an awful interview. I was concerned because, you know, we'd seen her interview with Lester Holt about the border, and that wasn't ideal for her, clearly, and she didn't really have answers. But this interview leads me to have more concerns when she's in a debate setting with Trump come early September. So that would be the main concern here, where it's like, okay, you're probably going to get pressed harder. You're probably going to get pressed harder by Trump, and we'll see whether or not she can handle that kind of pressure well or not. But admittedly, she did her like debate with Mike Pence, and that seemed to have gone pretty well back in 2020. So I don't know. I can go either way, but it still is her race to lose, I think, because it's basically the more we get to know about her in these, I think it's 67 days till the election right now. The more we get to know about her, the more people either like it or hate it. But again, you might just have baked into the pie of like, okay, this is our generic Democrat candidate, so we'll just impugn everything that we want the party to be onto her, no matter what her performance actually is on these sorts of things. So I honestly think it's better strategy-wise for her to not do as many interviews, or if she's doing any interviews, make sure they're like the most softest of softball interviews in the world. In fact, she might do a better job of getting interviewed by like the influencers and the online media sort of people over getting interviewed by like these traditional media centers, similar to what Trump's doing with going on these podcast circuits. I think she'd do better if she were doing stuff like that. And again, optically, it's all about the optics and the vibes sort of thing. I'm just saying what would be best for her politically. I'm not saying what is best for the people's informed opinion when they're voting. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Those are my thoughts. Again, I think it's Kamala's race to lose. We already know everything about Trump. There's nothing that's really going to change people's opinions on him. And yeah, that's all I have. So if you liked it, like. If you dislike. Leave a comment letting me know why you like or dislike. And I will see you all later. Goodbye.